Okay, perfect. Got it. We are live streamed. We're live on Facebook. Alex, wait 1 second. Hey, Isaiah, we're live on Facebook. We don't want to listen to your Fortnite game. Okay. Oh, boogers. And then I've got the back here. So let me fix this. Okay, Alex, you're the host. Let me figure out sound. Okay, beautiful. So, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Energy Efficiency Day, which I can tell you I would not have known if Alex hadn't reached out a bit ago asking, well, actually, we've been kind of figuring out how we're going to work together and connect in this kind of space for a while now. So I'm really happy that we're able to come together and have this conversation today and have it after the summit this morning. Where it was really nice. I wasn't able to get in. I think we just missed each other, Alex. So you were in there from 9 to about 10:30. I got in there about 10:20. And so I got to listen to the section that Ann was facilitating. And it was just really nice to listen to how people were thinking about environmental issues and equity issues in new and interesting ways. So I'm going to hand it over to you right now. You're the host. And why are we having this conversation this evening? And what are we going to talk about?
Thanks, Gamora. So the reason why we're having this conversation, I'm Alex Rodriguez, by the way. I work as a climate advocate with Save the Sound. The reason why we're having this conversation is so that we could have, a genuine conversation about the importance of energy affordability, energy reliability, and energy accessibility, and how those factors play into climate action and helping people save money on their energy bills and saving the planet that we love so much. I have a very brief presentation today, and then I'll open it up for some great conversation with you all today. So thank you everybody for joining us. Allow me to share my screen here. And okay. Okay, so Save the Sound. We advocate for climate action. We're advocating for the state to comply with the Global Warming Solutions Act. It is this policy that the state put into place to reduce carbon emissions across all sectors of government, 45% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. And in order to reach those goals, energy efficiency is going to be very important. Another few things we work on at Save the Sound is preserving endangered lands. That includes brownfield remediation, improving water and fish passage in rivers, protecting Long Island Sound and its rivers by identifying sources of pollution in the waters and holding those responsible for the pollution accountable. We are looking to protect the planet by advocating in these several areas. But for the purpose of today's presentation, we're going to focus on climate change and energy efficiency. So to kick off this conversation, I think it would help if people knew where their energy comes from. Our energy comes from a variety of sectors. There's energy powering the residential sector, the commercial sector, the industrial sector, and and the transportation sector. And these various sectors of our society predominantly rely on fossil fuels, such as coal, gas, and oil, to power them, to power our everyday routine. And though fossil fuels have played a role in our society in the past, from the Industrial Revolution up until today, the evidence is clear that fossil fuels are harming the planet and are harming our lungs. The climate crisis worsens by the day, and those who are least, who have contributed the least to this problem, have suffered the most from it. Let's look at this past summer, for example. We had various heat waves, we had immense storms, and our infrastructure is not exactly intact to be able to withstand another Ida or Irma tomorrow. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's exactly why we need more funding way as a state level, at the state level, needs infrastructure funding to support our bridges, our roads, make sure that people are well protected from flooding, and that state buildings or government-owned buildings are weatherized, and are able to regulate intense temperatures from within the inside. As I mentioned, the climate crisis is aggravated by the burning of fossil fuels. Many people want to transition to a clean energy economy. Many people are enthusiastic about solar energy, about wind energy, and geothermal, but those energies are very expensive. And for tonight's presentation, I'm going to offer energy efficiency as a way that we can all, something that we could all sign on to, commit to before reaching renewables. There is, a fair amount of advocacy conducted by many groups at the state level to, increase the state's renewable energy portfolio, and also have a presence at the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority to make sure that these energies are affordable and that people could, buy into the system. But again, I'm gonna focus on energy efficiency. To combat fossil fuels long-term, we must embrace policies and practices that prioritize energy equity. Accessibility, affordability, and reliability is key in this work, and in our daily lives. Solar, not everybody can install a solar panel on their home. Many people, like myself, I live in a two-family unit, and many people in my neighborhood in West Hartford. I live over in the Southwest Hartford by Prospect Ave. There are many multifamily units, and not everybody can install a solar panel on their home, because we have to go through the landlord to be able to make that happen. And sometimes the landlords aren't within reach. And another thing that, is a major factor is affordability. It's very expensive to buy into solar at the moment. There are clean energy programs. However, there's a lot more that needs to be done on a micro level to make sure that energy is cheaper on a macro level. And so, and envisioning an equitable energy system, it's really important that that it embeds inclusive, accessible, and authentic community engagement, because Connecticut has a program called Energize Connecticut that is meant to help put people in touch with state energy efficiency contractors to help them conduct a home energy audit and insulation. However, many people are unaware of the Energize Connecticut Home Energy Solutions program. Many people are unaware of it. And so it's really important that the program is promoted in a way that prioritizes, cultural competency, a multilingual approach to promoting the program, and that the promotion of the program is simple, and that the state and these contractors are actually out there in communities, whether it be at the farmers market or outside the city hall, talking to people about the benefits of these programs. It's important that another thing that's important in an equitable energy system is recognizing and addressing historical, cultural, and institutional dynamics that have created previous inequities that still burden people today. I touched a little bit about having to go through your landlord to be able to accomplish an energy efficiency audit and installation. There are other factors at play as to why people may be mistrustful of signing up for the program, such as the fact that our zoning laws in Connecticut, they have prioritized segregation in the past, and so by overcoming that barrier is very challenging. Achieving a fair distribution of opportunities, benefits for all communities, and is very important. And also, what's important to an equitable energy system is considering intergenerational impacts and not create policies or programs that haven't worked in the past. Promoting energy efficiency is a vital step forward, because we are trying to communicate a program that helps people use less energy to save more money, and thereby save lives in the macro scheme of things, because we have a grid that's predominantly reliant on fossil fuels, and it's very important that we transition this reliance into a renewable energy focused economy. And if we just did that without the equity, without everybody being able to sign on, not everybody can afford renewable energies today, but energy efficiency is a stepping stone to get there. Representation, power, and influence from community members and environmental justice advocates in the decision-making and the implementation process is very important. I'm going to touch a little bit on the role of the state's energy efficiency board later. And then also institutionalizing accountability from the government, the utilities, and other stakeholders is very important. The Energy Efficiency Board is made up of Eversource, United Illuminating UI, and the DEEP, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and many other energy-related stakeholders. And the Energize Connecticut program is a program that is supposed to connect people with cheaper energy services. Connecticut has what's called the Conservation and Load Management Program, which is funded by ratepayer dollars. And when I mean ratepayer dollars, I mean everybody who has a gas bill that they pay every month. We are all ratepayers. We are all paying into a system that is supposed to promote cheaper energy for us, but many of us are unaware of that. And so I'm here to touch on that a little bit today. But as I mentioned earlier, energy efficiency is climate action. Energy efficiency, energy and energy conservation are very similar, but they're not the same. The similar goal between them is reducing energy use. Energy efficiency helps people save money more than any other single fuel source. By reducing demand for energy efficiency relieves pressure on the electrical grid. It helps reduce Connecticut's reliance on fossil fuels and lowers energy bills for families. A fun fact is, according to the American Council for Energy Efficiency, energy efficiency report, they estimate that additional investments in energy efficiency could lower greenhouse gas emissions on a nationwide level by an additional 50% by 2050, which would be especially helpful in Connecticut because the Global Warming Solutions Act we are mandated to meet 80% greenhouse gas reduction by 2050.
When 2050 or 50? What's the year?
2050.
2050.
But that is why promotion of these programs is so important. Better promotion of these programs is so important. I think a multilingual approach is especially important because if all of this info is coming out in primarily English, and I apologize for this presentation being only in English. My Spanish is not as great as it could be, but I try. The thing that we can do on a micro level to fight climate change is by making our homes energy efficient. The energy efficiency board, the Energize Connecticut program has a program called Home Energy Solutions and the Home Energy Solutions Income Eligible Program. And in these programs, people sign up and are connected with a certified vendor, and a site evaluation is conducted. And from there,
qualifies for this. I'm sorry, I'm taking notes over here. I've got a whole bunch of questions for afterwards, but who
yes.
This?
What was that?
Who qualifies for this program, for this service?
So there's the Home Energy Solutions program, which anybody can sign up for. And then there's the Home Energy Solutions Income Eligible program that everybody could also sign up for. But it's it's an income eligible program. If you are if your income level is deemed low to moderate income status, then you will be eligible for a a little to no cost site evaluation test, um, and also in insulation, a weatherization service. Um, so in that, following the site evaluation, they do an analysis of where where the water and electrical systems, where these areas could be minimized. Following that, there is a combustion safety test, and carbon monoxide and energy efficiency tests. They're testing the safety of products in your home that rely on fossil fuels. Following that is the blower door test, where they analyze where the energy is escaping your home. So if there's cracks, by the windowsill, or there's cracks by the door, or in the vents, these are areas that need to be sealed. And so in following the blower door tests, there would be weather stripping, door sweeps, and foam line door kits, so that the areas where the energy is escaping your home are sealed, thereby helping people save money on their energy, use less energy as a result of that. Because for homes that use oil or natural gas, or coal, for that matter, when you're burning that energy to just power your light while you're reading, or your TV, or your stove, that is energy you're using, and it's escaping. Following that is the minimum flow tests. They test the AC, and they make sure that the air sealing measures are tight, and that freezing constant condensation does not occur. And following that is a duct blaster and sealing tests. There's an analysis of air leakage in the duct, and so by where they already sealed it, and they're just making sure that it is sound, that it is fully put into place. And then following that, the home energy solutions vendor sits down with you to discuss further methods of energy savings, because they in their analysis, they're able to figure out how much energy the fridge is using versus how much energy your lights are using. There are some energy efficiency contractors that they'll bring LED lights to help you save energy that way.
Are there any programs to buy more energy efficient refrigerators? Because you just hit on, one for me and one for a whole bunch of poor folks. Refrigerators aren't cheap. The good ones aren't cheap. Landlords aren't buying them. So, you got that piece. So when you move into a place, the refrigerator that you usually have is drinking electricity. Are there programs for that?
Um,
Not
so
Natasha, is your refrigerator drinking electricity? Like that's the best way I can put it.
yeah, the program, the label that I'm most aware of is the Home Energy Star label, which is a label put into place on certain refrigerator products or AC products that are certified energy efficiency products according to the federal standard. I would have to get back to you on what specifics make an Energy Star label an Energy Star label, but my impression is an Energy Star label on a refrigerator or any other appliance is a highly energy efficient product.
Oh no, I get that part. Like I'm completely down with that. But how do we get those into the hands of poor people cheaply? And like is there an incentive or is there an incentive for landlords to put energy efficient utility or products into the apartments that they're renting? Like when you rent a place and the electricity bill is yours, the landlord can less if you've got a 1982 refrigerator. So I'm just wondering programs that help landlords that we can tell landlords about, or if there are programs renters so that they can get their own stuff in there somehow.
There are other services that the Energize Connecticut program has that that I didn't include in this presentation. And there's also the Connecticut Green Bank that helps that provides leasing for like clean energy products, or helping people install solar panels. Entering a lease to purchase a solar panel. And so I would have to get back to you on that information, Kimura. Okay. But yeah, definitely look into Energize Connecticut and the Connecticut Green Bank. Some barriers to weatherization. I touched on some of these earlier. Lack of promotional info, language barriers, and simplicity in language. Absent landlords is another barrier to weatherization. Lead, mold, asbestos, and vermin are other barriers. Mistrust in the messenger, the institution, or just mistrust in new technologies in general is another barrier to weatherization. Miscommunication from the messenger is another barrier to weatherization, and also a mistrust from the investors, like they see it as too high risk of an investment, or are uncertain about it in general. But I think that's all the more reason, like why it's important to continue to communicate the benefits of this program, because maybe the landlord won't listen to the tenant, even though they should. Maybe they'll hear info about the Home Energy Solutions program from somewhere else, from another messenger, and they'll want to sign up for it right away. because
let's talk about, and here I want to stay here for a while. Like I want to finish and go on, but I open this up to folks who are here to jump in, and because these barriers are here and they exist. So what can we really do to address these barriers and to address the way that they truly exist? Because as someone who knows absentee landlords, and by knowing them, I mean, I don't know them. I don't know of any plea that for the folks who figured out how to just suck up money. So the people who have the very old appliances in the apartments and just take that money every month in the windows, there's no weather stripping, there's one pane of glass. Some of it might be cracked. So you've got air coming in and out, and there's no grabbing the landlord, right? How do we work with what's there then? So how do we work with the people who live in the building and get stuff there? So I'm seeing, mistrust in the messenger, definitely institutions, new technologies, miscommunications about this. Folks who are here, how do we get past this? I don't know, Alex, on your end, what is working? What has worked? What has definitely not worked? What is frustrating you because it's sort of working?
Well, I haven't come across this issue personally, but I do know folks that have. Oh, Angel has his hand up. Angel, please join us.
I just want to tell you a personal experience, and it might relate to some of Kamara's questions. I remember when I was a homeowner before, years ago, my furnace went, and we had to replace the furnace, and there was a rebate at that time for energy efficient appliances, and refrigerators were included in that. But I think that legislation might have expired by now. So what is needed is new legislation to redirect these funds, because at the time it was federal funds that were redirected towards energy efficiency appliances. And that was for the stimulus back then when Governor Rell was governor of Connecticut. So
it's about what year was that?
I could look it up. I think it's 2004-ish.
Nice. And you were able to get appliances. Like, did that really help influence what you were able to buy and how you bought it?
Sorry, it was 2010. Basically, we went with an energy efficiency furnace because it had a rebate on it. So it worked for us when we needed it. But something like that, incentives, rebates for energy efficiency products are needed to help people offset the cost of these appliances. Unfortunately, a landlord is supposed to provide a refrigerator for you. You should never have an apartment with no refrigerator. But the refrigerator they do get, or the appliances they do get, are the cheapest. They're just trying to fill a hole.
Yeah.
So the cheapest product is not always the most efficient. So why would a landlord care about how much is your bills? Because he just cares about the rent, right? He or she, they might just care about the rent, but they might not care about your utility bills. So it's like really about trying to get landlords to have a heart when it comes to this. I know that Connecticut Renews, we just passed a housing energy efficiency retrofit bill that, is going to now some federal funds have been allocated in order to bring energy efficiency changes into these apartments. But it doesn't only benefit tenants, it also benefits landlords. And we're trying to work with DEEP right now, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, to get them, when they implement this, to make sure that landlords are not just doing the retrofits and then, the lease comes up, they kick out their tenant or whatever, evict their tenant for whatever reason, and then hike up the price and bring in, people that make more money, you know what I mean? And not exactly the demographic that we're trying to hit, because we're trying to help low income and Black and brown communities, around with this bill. So something has happened in that front, but in order for people to buy appliances and offset the cost, rebates are needed, incentives from the government are needed, subsidies, you know.
I agree with you, Angel.
I just wanted to bring up, so in the chat, Wallace, you said not all, but I'm not sure what you were saying that in response to. You want to share? I mixed context.
Wallace.
Okay.
Sorry. No, not all rebates are gone. I just put a link to the Energy Star tax credits.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You know, something that I forgot to mention in this presentation is, you know, how important heat pumps are. Heat pumps are this device that's used to warm and sometimes also cool buildings by transferring thermal energy from a cooler space to a warmer space using the refrigeration cycle. And on my phone right now, I went into looking up the rebates of the Energize Connecticut program, and I see that there's up to $35 for boiler circulator pumps, up to $2,500 for ducted heat pumps or ductless heat pumps, up to $1,000 for ducted and ductless heat pumps with home energy solutions, up to $200 for Energy Star certified air conditioners. And there's a few other things here, including furnaces and boilers.
Those you would definitely have to hire someone for. Heat pump sounds scary to me. How do you install this, and what does that look like? And is there money that like helps if you need to have? So because I can probably figure out how to buy a boiler for free or for cheap. Like I can figure that out. But then the installation, how does that work? Are there programs that help with that? I'm thinking about like the elderly people who can't install their own heat pump and such.
Angel?
Yeah, I'm happy to help out with this. I'm not an expert on heat pumps. Basically, a heat pump is, if you think about the concept of an air conditioning system, where it takes heat from the air, or it takes heat from the liquid and converts it, you know, the condenser, evaporator, all that, but in reverse. And a heat pump is a technology almost like the reverse air conditioner, where it can heat your home, and it's a more efficient way. And I don't know about the installation. I'm assuming, you're going to need some sort of contractor or something like that, but I don't know what the installation process is. But that's part of the retrofit bill that we passed too, is one of the energy, if you qualify for that energy efficiency program, and if you're low income, you will qualify. And basically you can get heat pumps installed at no cost to the landlord. And then what landlord wouldn't want that deal? You know, no cost to me, and I get to upgrade my my building and my apartment.
Yeah.
You know,
I get to add to the bottom line. Yeah, I get to increase the value of my property.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if anyone out there who's listening or watching us here, does any type of training programs with young people, or knows anything about programs that are training young people for the world of work and whatever that looks like. I know folks are always looking for apprentice programs, you know, internships, places to place their students, things to do. I'm wondering out there, like if you're doing plumbing, who is teaching young people how to install this stuff? Like there are those places when we talk about the trades and how important the trades are, you always have work. But are any of these programs working and looking at ways for people as they're learning how to install these things, as they're learning the trades, that they're practicing on, that they're serving community as they do this? Like that sounds like something that would be helpful.
Alex, I can also answer that workforce development is also part of the implementation of that bill, but the workforce development needs to be considered when any of these programs happen. You know, yes, there's always young people that need skills, and how do you teach them the skills? Like there has to be some sort of either apprenticeship program, or maybe labor unions can be in charge of like the training. But of course, we don't want to say that only unions can be doing this kind of work. There's also businesses that are not union, and they pay their employees very well, and they treat them very well, and they train them very well. So, you know, it's a joint effort on this, but always training is definitely something. And we got to consider that young people might not want to be doing these kinds of work. So we want to have good benefits and good incentives to having people, good hourly wage and all that, to make people feel appreciated in these kinds of jobs, you know.
I agree, Angel. You know, you and I, we both have a friend, Leticia Colon de Mejias. You know, Leticia just recently graduated 10 Black and Latinx young employees, you know, teaching them all about energy efficiency, running them through the intensive curriculum to become certified vendors, energy efficiency vendors in the state. And like something that I noticed that she's done is like, she has like three programs. She has her business, the energy efficiency solutions, and then the youth educational program, Green Eco Warriors, and then the much more energy efficiency focused efficiency for all program. And I think she had taught them through Energy for All, and then is now hiring them through energy efficiency solutions.
So soup to nuts, just straight through. Where is she located?
Windsor, Connecticut.
Leticia has been leading in this community for a long time. She's done a lot with the youth, with the community, not only through her business, but through her community work. Just, you know, she even wrote a comic book for kids. You know, she's great. You know, she's very passionate about what she does.
Oh, also, it's Angel's birthday, everybody.
Angel, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Go on. You want to tell us how old you are?
I have no shame, 39.
Happy 39. Enjoy it. Enjoy the end of 30s.
39 years young.
That's the spirit, my friend.
50 on Sunday. That's a good, or on Saturday.
I think, you know, I think I'm going to take it back to a macro level of, like, you know, how this work really fits in the grand scheme of things. You know, there's a lot of players at work here, and it, you know, it ties in with state and national initiatives to fight climate change. You know, to effectively fight climate change, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, all sectors of our society must cut emissions at least in half by 2030 in order to avert the likelihood of future immense storms. And you know, there's been some great things being pushed at the national level. I think it was great that Upon his election, President Biden rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, and is now pushing this Build Back Better agenda with the goal of reducing 50 to 52% of emissions in mind. But there's a lot more climate intensive provisions that many progressives are pushing for to be included in this federal package. And the debates, they still continue. Angel, did you want to touch on that? Because I know your coalition.
No.
Oh no.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the I just was hand clapping for the Paris Agreement, joining the Paris Agreement.
Yeah. Just in relation to that on a state level, and we have the Global Warming Solutions Act I mentioned earlier, 45% greenhouse gas reduction by 2030 and 80% by 2050 that the state is striving to meet. However, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection announced a couple of weeks ago that we're not on target to meet our greenhouse gas reduction targets. They took an inventory of carbon data up to 2018, and it showed that we're not in compliance with those targets. And I think that part of the blame could be placed on the previous administration for all the rollbacks that took place at the start of 2017. The state has a goal of meeting 40% renewable energies by 2030. However, to make sure that this is affordable to everybody, the state needs to maximize energy efficiency programs. Weatherizing 80% of homes by 2030 will help renewables become cheaper, and thereby, and also with heavy public comment into the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, in particular, to really expand on more shared solar programs, so that people living in apartments or multifamily units could also buy into solar, is really important. Another thing that's happening is there's 804 megawatts of offshore wind that will be generated in Bridgeport towards the end of the decade. The state signed legislation a couple of years ago to authorize Connecticut's participation in a bid for offshore wind energy, because offshore wind is there are companies looking to expand business in the Northeast region, such as Vineyard Wind, and there were a couple of companies in New York and Massachusetts, looking to expand business. But there's a lot more things that you need to be considered there. But offshore wind is a clean energy and would help Connecticut residents achieve cheaper energy. And then the last thing I'd like to leave for folks before we open up into a wider discussion again is please sign up for the Home Energy Solutions program on Energize Connecticut. At Energize Connecticut, there is, as I mentioned earlier, the Home Energy Solutions program and the Home Energy Solutions Income Eligible program. Um, another way that another thing that you can do to get involved is attend and testify at the state's Energy Efficiency Board monthly meetings. And I've listed an email there to get in contact with in case you all have trouble. And they also have the schedule posted to their website. It's usually on Wednesdays. There's usually one at 10 o'clock and another one at 1 o'clock. 10 o'clock is the residential meeting, and 1 o'clock is the full Energy Efficiency Board meeting, which also includes, discussion on commercial buildings. And then my last ask is to join our activist network at Save the Sound.
Okay, and what happens over there? What does the activist network do?
Oh, the activist network, we keep our members up to date with what we're doing in our various departments. For example, if the legal team is suing a town over non-compliance with the Clean Water Act, or they're suing an energy company, an energy facility for lack of compliance with the Clean Air Act. Those are things. Our ecological restoration team, as I mentioned earlier, they have some environmental remediation projects that they're working on every day. Mm-hmm. And then there's also updates from my department on some of the climate policies that we interact with Angel on pushing, and other groups. And yeah, that's just a little bit about energy efficiency for me in a nutshell. I am not a certified vendor. I just wanted to pose, that solution to everybody, because many young people come up to me and they're like, Alex, what can I do to, effectively fight climate change? And I'm like, well, you can, we can team up on holding a webinar together, on a climate related topic that's important to you, whether it be waste or transportation or energy. We can write an op-ed or an LTE, letter to the editor, so that you can articulate, your hopes for a more climate resilient future. Mm-hmm. And then there's also teaming up for legislator meetings, because there's strength in numbers, and the legislators should hear people's stories.
Well, we have, while we're having this conversation, just really quickly, can you make me a co-host or the host so I can share my screen very, very quickly?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Let's see. So Naya created this. Let's share and see how this goes. So how does this work? If we've got this, can we start sharing this, telling people about Energize Connecticut?
Absolutely.
Information. Mm-hmm. Does that say everything it's supposed to say?
It does. And I think yeah. Oh, what was that?
No, you're gonna say you think what?
Oh, I even think I was contemplating to myself, in preparing for the meeting, if I should list out steps to on how to participate in the Energy Efficiency Board meetings, because like I was saying earlier, they only do so well of a job promoting that this is how we get to cheaper energy and a more affordable livelihood. And but I think that flyer is a really effective start.
one thing when it comes to like, how do we get information out effectively, which is just always an issue. The first step I've got, which is, like catch as catch can, but get everyone you've got around you to make the flyer that they would make and have them send it to people who they know who they would send it to. So thank you. To make a flyer for you. We'll get it out to our folks. And other folks who are here, like I'm really thinking about Energize CT. And part of why I'm thinking about it is I don't know anything about this program. And I'm a poor person who could seriously use some help weatherizing my house. I know walking around the house with the plastic and the air, the blow dryer, putting that over the windows. I've got that down. I've got these heavy curtains that I put up in the front foyer just because when you stand by the front door, right up next to the front door in the winter, you feel things. But Alicia, hello, beautiful. How are you?
Hi.
Hey, Alicia.
I just saw this on your Facebook, Kimora, and so I apologize for my lateness because I didn't see it earlier. I work for Sierra Club Connecticut, as you see. Me and Alex we did the town hall last month. I can't believe it was last month. And right now, Sierra Club Connecticut, at least within Hartford, I run the Ready for 100 campaign in the city of Hartford. And we're starting to do our campaign work with Trinity College, with their Trinity Action Lab around energy burden, energy costs, and like finding and gathering data so that it can be presented to the state government to like change laws in regards to weatherization and electrifying, and having people get off fossil fuels and cutting costs to Hartford residents. So I'm glad to be here. I was actually trying to get in touch with you, Kumar, about participating in this work. I think we could talk offline about it if that's okay.
Oh, good. Yes. And your name is Flood. Like when I just say that the stars align in some interesting, beautiful ways, your name has come up a couple times this week as well. And I'm just kind of, so this is the conversation we need to have, and we're doing what we do. But I just need to share ridiculousness, as in this morning, I was talking to some folks about creating a land trust, just doing something around green spaces, right? And I was like, well, me, like, I don't need to run this stuff. So I don't need to run it. But like the stipulation that I need to have in there is that, okay, let's figure out how to have, there's got to be a Black lesbian over 50 in charge, right? And let's like, if we're setting this up as a trust for, so let's make sure that 100 years from now, there's another Black lesbian over 50 in charge, because I think that's the only person who can store the land, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I got my own stuff wrapped up in that, but I believe that's the only person who can really store the land over time, who I can trust 500 years from now and 2 years from now. And this afternoon, Mary Young from Upper Albany gave me a call about some work that we're going to be doing, some youth work and some funding and such. It's like, hey, let's talk about open space. So I am very happy that you're here for this conversation. We're going to talk offline about what we need to do. And all of the stars are going to continue to align, and we get this. But yeah, so yeah.
My apologies for being late. Also, I just saw it. I was watching Facebook videos, and then I saw your post. I was like, wait, what? I'm late. So I'm glad I saw this.
You could be here, but you could also be watching someone mess up in their kitchen as they're boiling stuff, and then their mom comes in and slips, and that's times.
Yeah.
Alicia,
in my chat and in the chat? Sorry.
Yeah. Alicia, what's the Ready for 100 campaign been like so far for you? Like, what's like the day to day?
It's a lot of work. I am finally full-time. I've been full-time with Sierra Club Connecticut since January. And I've been doing a lot of merging food justice with environmental justice and the arts with the environment, and like working with youth. And I know, Kimora, you have a good relationship and rapport with youth. I've been working with Chanel Morris with the Grow Hartford Youth to try to get them involved in merging their food justice work with environmental justice work. I've been working with Hassan, who does a lot of community work around environmentalism. He's like a Black environmentalist and a radical. So I've been having a lot of one-on-ones with people to engage with the community in a way that Sierra Club has not done in the past with communities like Hartford. And trying to change the face to, like what Kimora just mentioned, to have the original face be someone who's non-white in the environmental space. Because we've always been in a space of cultivating the land, safeguarding the land and humanity for millennia. Whiteness has come in and taken over and has poisoned the land and the people. So I find it really ironic that white people have been the lead of this, and it shows that it has not fared well for people who they're supposed to be helping. So I hope to change that with Sierra Club in Connecticut. And I understand that it's an uphill battle, but I'm willing to fight. And I know that I can't do it by myself. And I think Sierra Club, I guess I'm really promoting them hard, but I think that they have a potential to do better. If not, then they will fail. And I don't want what Sierra Club does to fail. I just need for the leadership to change and for there to be more representation of people who are non-white, in particular Black folk, because I'm a champion for Black Americans who descend from slavery. So I'm here for that. And I'm also here for, in Hartford, for Puerto Rican Americans as well. So, but my anchoring is in Black Americans who descend from slavery. And there needs to be an authentic coalition between people in this city who are the majority of this city. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. And I'll put my email in the chat on the Zoom.
Beautiful.
But it's been a long journey, and I'm willing to continue. I'm in team building process right now too. So
I'm really happy you're in your role. I was saying I'm really happy you're in your role, Alicia. And I'm happy Angel is here too, because I've been working in the environmental space since 2016, and there's been few people of color leading the way on a lot of these environmental issues in Connecticut, and with you and Angel entering the sphere, and even Michael over here on the chat. I'm finding that there's more people speaking the language of environmental justice and connecting it with racial justice, and it makes me feel less alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a new employee in this morning, and they're 27 years old. And so as I had the summit happening this morning, I was listening to people speak, and I was listening to white folks marry environmental justice issues and equity issues, and just like speaking of it as if they understood what they were talking about. I was, kind of losing my mind, as in, this is what we've been working for. This, oh my goodness, this, and using it as this chance to honestly, for my employee, it was explaining, and this is how cultural humility shows up, right? Because just clearly, you all work in environmental space. You know how ridiculously racist and that special sending racist piece, the way that shows up constantly. And what I heard today sounded so drastically different. And I think there's always, for me, there's always yoga and environmentalists, right? And those crew, they are, in my world, those folks are really good at being the most racist, but the most oblivious to any type of racism that they've got happening at all. And y'all are doing the work. And what I'm seeing though, is that because it was so blatantly since 2020, all of those cute little, I only choose to see beautiful things, and I care about rivers, and there's no racism in a river. You are being a horrible person for trying to insert some racism in my river conservation. And now join the yoga ladies, right? And so the work that's happening there, it had to happen the way that it's happened, because that was so far. So I kind of feel better about the people in the middle, and I feel that they can be moved, because if you can move the environmentalists, there's no racism in a river, how dare you put it there, and they're moving. Good stuff can happen. Now, no Pollyanna, please believe me, there's no understanding and belief that there's a Pollyanna space in here. But this is the first time in my lifetime that I'm hearing white people put environmental justice issues, equity issues, and environmental racism issues together. I'm gonna stop talking now. Angel, your hand is up.
As a board member of the Sierra Club and being part of a club that is very majority white people, they say it themselves. I got to give them a little bit of credit because it's like, look, they understand that they don't understand us. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And we're looking for minority people of color to lead in their organizations. They acknowledge that they say it themselves, we're very white.
Those of us on the outsiders seeing that they're doing it. And this is an important thing. Like, we don't know what it's like to be in those spaces and listen to them give lip service and say, we don't know, and so therefore we can't get it right. I hope that you heard me giving them credit because they are walking the walk, the uncomfortable walk.
Yeah. I just want to say that, they really want, Sierra Club is really like into like equity and all that and justice, and like they're trying to make a diverse organization. They're always asking for leaders of color to be on their board and stuff. There's a few seats opening up and we're hoping to get more people of color on the board. And there's an environmental justice committee that they're thinking about actually making. Now, I don't know if those are right steps or not, but I always try to insert in the whatever issues we deal with is like, I always try to say, well, you know what? I don't think that poor people and people of color are actually that worried about this issue. They might be worried about different issues, more priorities, such as, for example, trying to get every electric car, to be an electric car. Yeah, that's great for the environment, but a lot of people can't afford it and won't be able to afford it for a long time. And gas cars are still going to be used by poor people. And, so I'm like, yes, we do need to get rid of gas, but let's talk about how to make electric cars affordable for people and for the infrastructure to be in apartment buildings and things like that. Apartment, parking, let's talk about equity like that. But then let's not try to change the whole system without thinking about what poor people's priorities are, because it's not always the environment either. There's other social issues, there's crime, there's poverty, there's all these other things that I keep telling them, like, look, it's hard to get people into our movement when they're worried about paying their bills and where the food is coming from and how they're going to get transportation to somewhere, the crime that's involved in their neighborhood. Those are all priorities that take on before the environment. To me, to regular people.
And when the environment is going to cost your pocket, it has to take a very back seat. Like, I remember when the idea of these electric cars were coming, right? And so I think the EV had been out in California, they had tried the EV and it had gone really well. And we're hearing about all of these wonderful electric cars that are going to happen. But like, by 2000, they're going to be electric cars, whatever. And then there's also the whole piece of people are going to start being charged. So you're going to be charged these emission taxes and things. So if your car wasn't like some great emission, whatever, there are going to be extra taxes. And I knew damn well then what my earning potential was then, what I saw my earning potential looking like in like the next decade of my life, and realizing, okay, I'm out of this whole conversation. Until these really amazing electric cars are created in a way that they've got like a 20-year lifespan, so that someone can own theirs for 5 years, then someone else can own it for another 5 years, then I can buy it from someone's driveway after that for my $2,000. I'm not a part of this conversation. And I'm going to have to pay all of that extra money, whatever those emission, so those penalties. So I'm supposed to understand I'm not going to be able to afford this car. So I'm not a part of the conversation. There are many times when I would have loved to have stepped into environmental conversations and my pocketbook kept me out. Solar would be awesome. It'd be great to have solar panels on my roof. That's kind of expensive. And I'm a renter. And so I've got a landlord. While I would love to do all of this, I can't do that if I'm going to be here for 3 or 4 years, maybe.
And that's part of the Ready for 100 Hartford campaign, which differs from other campaigns within the state. I am really trying to get a Sierra Club to change how they do their stuff nationally, to understand that you are service. If you really want to have this be grassroots, you have to understand that most of us are in apartments. Most of us are renters. We can talk about equity and land equity and ownership, but we have to take steps to get there first. So you have to start where we are as a people, because I am living the data that I am researching. And I want to show that to people, that I'm not just talking like some Ivy League power moment. I'm actually living it with y'all. And I'm not trying to be something that I'm not in regards to that. It just so happens that I agree.
Did you hear when I was asking about the refrigerator? Because that's something that's always been an issue for me. So as a renter, like, so when I lived on South Whitney Street, I had it, so it was the 90s, but I had a refrigerator that was old, was like from the 50s. So in the 90s, the refrigerator in my apartment on South Whitney Street in Hartford, so the windows rattled. It was like, it was all kinds of problems, but the refrigerator made a whole lot of noise. The back of it was hot as heck. You know, it was like one of those old fans, and it drank my electricity. And I've always had, as a renter, the place I rent always comes with a refrigerator, and that refrigerator is never energy efficient. So as the renter, and we discussed this before you got on, but there's never an incentive for the landlord. If I'm paying rent, they've got no incentive to upgrade the appliances, and then I'm stuck with it. So how's this 100 plan? Talk about that. Does it address this at all?
Yes, we are looking to address, hence why we are partnering and have partnered with Trinity College in the Action Lab to look at energy burden, energy cost, and find solutions to energy costs, and how to hold landlords accountable and or give them incentive to not only do weatherization of their buildings, but to upgrade their appliances without gentrifying the area. So we're working in tandem to eventually in the long term and in short term I know for a fact that the new job sector is in green energy. That means solar panels, electrification, electric cars, all of that. I need for people in Hartford who are Black and Puerto Rican, you feel me, for the most part, to get those jobs and to get those loans, to have those businesses. And what I get a lot of when I first started doing this work last year, I've been with Sierra Club for a year, is that people aren't trained. They don't have the experience. Well, then train them. And make sure this is part of the education aspect of this campaign. So I'm looking into that to give people the resources that they need, starting with the youth and working our way up, to train people so that they can be in the jobs and get those jobs. So yes. I think Angel and I know Ann Goodell, she's not here, but she's also Sierra Club staff, is lobbying around, you know, big bills to like for jobs and stuff, and also to have Connecticut be held accountable, challenging the governor to be held accountable to making us green and all that, but making sure that when the jobs get here, that they go to the people here. And I'm also part of a union, so I'm pro-union, so looking into that as another aspect to get people in.
You know. Which union?
Well, I'm with the PWU, Progressive Workers Union. So proud member.
Bringing stuff in. Good. Mike, your hand is up. What good stuff are you thinking?
Hey, I more so wanted to just talk about the environmental racism as a whole, kind of just dive into that and our energy costs. And by the way, guys, my name is Michael Ortade. I'm the president of Black Lives Matter A6. So I'm a member of the Green Party, and I'm running for Senate next year in Hartford in District 1 against Fanfare. I could say that now. It seems like party leadership is leaning towards it. So real quick, I just wanted to jump in and talk about like a lot of the things that we're doing with our garbage right now in the state are kind of in the vein of, I can't see it, so it's not my problem anymore. And to me, that's disgusting because we are affecting other Black and brown communities in America right now. What we're doing right now is we're shipping our trash to, I want to say Pennsylvania, Ohio, a couple other states, and they're putting it in landfills. And Connecticut is praising itself for going 30 years without putting garbage in a landfill. And that's bullshit. We have been putting garbage in other states' landfills. We have not gone 30 years without putting trash in landfills. So and we're still like, yes, we're dealing with our trash, but it's harming the environment because we're actually burning our trash still. And as we move towards a future where we're moving towards a greener future, we can no longer continue to pollute our atmosphere and destroy our environment in such a way and pollute our air. I know too many Black people with asthma. I know too many Black people with health issues associated with environment that have been caused by environmental racism. So I have been studying my ass off for ways to deal with our trash, cut costs for people who are living in the city, and help mend the impact of environmental racism on our communities. And I don't know if anybody here is zero waste. That's cool. I'm not mad at you. Good for you. You feel me? But we're not there yet. And we won't be there for a very long time. We're just realizing that recycling is a myth, that it's not doing what it was intended to do. It's here to make people feel good. You put a bottle in the blue bin and yay, you're doing your part. And unfortunately, that's complete and utter bullshit. So we need to start thinking about actual solutions and ways to deal with our trash that will help our people. And one thing that I am proposing is the use of plasma arc technologies to deal with our garbage. It's a lot different than incineration because it doesn't put any muck back into our atmosphere. It just melts down the garbage that we think that we can recycle, including pollutants and hazardous materials that we think that we're dealing with properly, but we're not. And it converts it into energy and turns it into an inert slate of like, let's call it an aggregate, kind of like gravel that can be used for our roadways. And there's a bunch of different perks for this, right? For one, it gets us into the conversation of what are we doing? What is the state doing with our energy? Right now, we got a bunch of different companies just they basically run game on us. Like if I have like Eversource providing me energy, I might want to switch to somebody else who could give me a lower rate this year. But they really just dropping and moving their prices around so that they can continue pumping money out of us. What I believe is that Connecticut should try to take the brunt of that cost and handle the garbage this way and package the energy and provide it to everyone. And I call it socialized energy. And through doing so, what we'll do is we'll drastically impact the cost of energy in Connecticut, and we'll move away from natural gas fired. And yeah, you can say that natural gas fired has a lot less carbon emissions. Yeah, whoop-de-doo, great. But it still does have carbon emissions. A lot of the natural materials that we use to produce energy have carbon emissions, and they like to just change names around so that it makes it sound better. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. That is the case with this. Opposed to incineration, this is going to get rid of our garbage, maybe a little bit slower than incineration, because incineration, I believe, can destroy like 3,000 tons a day. I'm thinking even with like the largest facilities for this, I think the most you can do is 600 tons a day. But here's the thing, it's turning it into something that will cut the state so much money in transportation. Right now, Lamont is talking about bringing tolls back. They're talking about closing down the trash facility in Hartford and moving our trash to other states. That costs us millions of dollars. That costs the state millions of dollars. And guess where that money coming from? Us, taxpayers. We're paying to put our trash in another state and hurt other Black people.
Let's say with other poor folks, with some
exactly.
other folks, yeah, someone who doesn't.
We're hurting each other, and we're making each other feel better because we're saying we can't see it happening, and that's bullshit to me. So one of the main platforms I'm running on is this. is to make our energy socialized, have a conversation about whether Connecticut should run our energy or it should be regionalized at a municipal level, and really get deep down into this discussion as we move towards a greener future. Because if we don't start having these conversations right now and taking our chances with different ways of dealing with our trash, we're going to be doing the same shit we've been doing for years. And we are already not meeting goals for what we're doing with carbon emissions, and burning our trash is not helping. So let's melt it down. And we're not, and I refuse to pay tolls. If I have to pay tolls to travel, I'm not going nowhere. So forget that. We could deal with the cost of dealing with our roads by doing this. That would drastically impact our transportation budget. Drastically, if we change the type of material we're using for our roads to this other material that we're making ourselves, literally by throwing a piece of garbage in the trash or throwing away an old motherboard or something. Because that stuff we don't know what we're doing with. They don't recycle motherboards and iPods and shit. They don't know what to do with that old shit. They just put it in a landfill in Pennsylvania. So I want to do this. It's one of the main things that I think that is possible for Connecticut. And as the technology gets better and better, the same way that technology is getting better with windmills and all these other renewable sources, garbage isn't going anywhere. We're never going to stop making waste. I take a shit every day. We're never going to stop making waste. That is part of what it is.
No, don't. And any links to any articles or anything that you've got, share here. But also share on the KCC page, because this is, you've been on for the whole conversation. As I say, this is the place where I'm getting excited. This is the place where all the wonderful conversations that need to happen are happening. And speaking to, so I'm not saying that the white folks over at the Sierra Club all woke up and said, it's time to be woke and do stuff. But I am saying that there's a whole lot of folks who are saying, the fast answers that we've had, all these great cerebral answers that we've come up with right here are not right and haven't worked. So how do we continue to have hello, but how do we figure out how to continue having these conversations, right? And so I need to read up a whole lot more about this. And then Michael, we need to have this conversation here again when we all have a lot more information. And
okay.
Continue doing this. Mount Trashmore, I remember they had a wonderful idea, or the trash over in the North End, that's a great idea that they could just cover it. And that didn't work. And just like every wonderful idea, yes, so all of these great ideas never got there. And now there are actual real ideas that people are thinking about and putting into ideas like, how is this going to work? What's the environmental impact? What's the social impact? Like what's the political impact? And then even what's the economic impact? This is where I'm excited. This is where I'm excited that the economic folks and the social folks are not here, that the conversation is finally here. Brenda, you turned the camera on, so I'm not gonna say you're it, but I wanna ask you how you felt about this morning. I don't know if you heard when I was saying it felt really good to hear the level of, not just the level of conversation, but the level of thinking that had happened with a lot of different folks in there before they spoke and before information was brought in. And I'm seeing a shift. I hope you're feeling good about where we are today.
Thank you so much, Kimora. I definitely am feeling like we're in an environment that is where advocates are finally being listened to. Alex noted that he's been in this space now since 2016. And I remember seeing Alex speak around that time at a conference. And I was like, who is this young man? He's up there, he's so brave, and he's speaking my language. But in 2016, the environment was horrible for advocates trying to get policymakers and the regulatory body to listen to us about not just climate justice, but energy equity. But I feel like we have members on the Energy and Technology Committee who are challenging the utility companies in ways that have never happened before. We have a regulatory chairman who is not only challenging the utility companies, but making them pay. and that's helping organizations like mine, because we are getting an influx of funds that we are going to invest in communities that cannot, in our communities, for folks who cannot afford the upfront costs to address their health and safety barriers in their homes so that they can then get the weatherization, and then we can install a heat pump. And I'm talking about a no closed door approach for folks who have been struggling the most. And I believe that we are in an environment that is friendly to advocates, but also where money is coming down, and organizations like, state agencies like DEEP are ensuring that that money is utilized in our communities. It's not perfect, but I feel like definitely, I mean, Alex, you can speak to what the environment was like in 2016 versus today. It was very hostile towards advocates. I mean, we weren't being listened to, we were being pacified, and it's much different now.
It's the truth. And I feel, I feel a change in dialogue. I feel a change in energy in the rooms I've been in, and I think it's because of many person of color professionals like us, who see the impacts of climate change on our communities firsthand, or other environmental injustices. I think that's been our convictions, and I think it's taken us to new levels. And I think the more we share our platforms with others looking to get involved, I think that's very valuable. I think white allies are very valuable also. People who want to share their power with people of color to get their stories front and center is so vital. In the first year, first year and a half when I was working at the League of Conservation Voters, I was able to work with the National League to publish a story that Wildelise Bermudez and I we were interviewing Puerto Ricans displaced by Maria who were in Hartford, and we interviewed a friend of ours who had moved from San Juan to Hartford and was a student at Trinity College. And she was able to get her story in Teen Vogue, and I think that made a big impact. Unfortunately, there wasn't really as much state legislation to support climate change refugees, but I think the work still carries on. Right, our communities become resilient when we give them the resources to become resilient, such as maximizing energy efficiency programs and making sure that they know about it. And Brenda, I tip my hat to you and all the work you've been doing.
Thank you, Alex. Operation Fuel, and I don't mean to dominate the conversation. We were largely focused just on providing direct bill payment assistance for, the first 40 years. Instinctively, I knew that environment mattered. And, folks like Dr. Robert Ballard, it took him 20 years to get the NAACP to even have a platform on environmental justice. Because I think where often our communities are torn have been on embracing utility companies who provide good jobs. So I can understand why it took that long for the NAACP to start paying attention to these issues, because although these jobs were being provided, we also had, how many Black men did you know growing up that would just be on a basketball court who would just die, on the football field, just die? And it was a result of learning from Dr. Mark Mitchell that it's our environment. You know, we have underlying health respiratory issues that can just attack the system at any time when the body is stressed. And I was not aware of that for a very long time. I worked in Bridgeport shortly after college, and if the wind blew a certain way, I was calling in sick. In Bridgeport, Waterbury, Hartford, all of these cities where we tend to live, dense populations, the environments were just unhealthy. I'm pleased to see that the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus is finally also taking up environmental justice issues and energy equity issues. It took a long time coming, but there was someone who said earlier that there are just so many other issues that we have to battle and fight: criminal justice, housing affordability, equal access to education, equal access to healthcare. So I can see why environment kind of fell to the bottom. But I think we all understand now that if we don't have clean air, if we don't have access to clean water, none of those other issues are going to matter.
I think, piggyback on what you said, Brenda, what we're dealing with, like what I appreciate about Sierra Club, which is, I know we promoting Sierra Club hard here. They wrote an article last year about racism being killing. Racism kills. And all of the stuff that we're dealing with the criminal justice system, with the education, all of that is environmental, in my humble opinion. And the reason why I say that is there's a book that came out, I think 2019, written by Harriet Washington, about environmental racism and how America has, done poorly in regards to addressing it. The title is Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind. I got the book in like my bookshelf over here. It's a book that I started out getting my Sierra Club crew people. I gathered them around like children because we are all young in this space. And I don't mean no disrespect, and I was like, we have to read this book. Let's start fresh. And yeah. So and what Harriet lays out in that book is about how every aspect of the American way in dealing with racism is inevitably environmental. So it's not just the air, it's not just the water, it's not just the food, it's everything combined, because America is such a racist country. So yeah, and once people start connecting the dots with that, then this whole, well, the environment isn't important to me. No, that they will second guess that. They'll be like, no, school is important to us. Criminal justice system and how we're being treated there. The medical establishment is important to us. The food, that's environmental as well. So it's all encompassing. Just
and there's I really think, Flint, Michigan created a place where people had to look at what the hell it was that they were saying that they believed in, right? And then the place that we don't go there is, as we're talking about criminal justice, I'm thinking about the food that folks in jail are eating. I'm thinking about the air that they're breathing. I'm thinking about the fact that the air ducts are disgusting because they're never cleaned because state contracts, And we've got all of these ways where our human beings who are removed from society are living in the most disgusting, dreadful conditions, that this is what we're discussing, that we're over here discussing, trying to deal with. Yeah, definitely COVID exposed all that. And I don't know why. And there is this interesting place. So let's have this conversation very quickly. Why? Because we all saw it happen, but there have been prison strikes and prisoners striking because it's too hot and it's too cold and the food is moldy and, we're not getting medical care, and we've ignored a lot of that. Why did COVID make a difference?
You make a difference for folks who are incarcerated or in general?
for the rest of us giving a fuck. And not just caring, but like the fact that people started not just caring, but caring and starting to think about how to do things.
I think COVID was a result of industry and retail coming to grips with the fact that low income wage earners contribute to the economy just as much as anybody else. So when folks who serve in restaurants, folks who do all of those low level jobs that, you know, where people are unseen, when they stop working, they stop making local trips to the Walmart, to the Target, to, you know, the whatever weekly shopping folks do, or even some of the just the random mindless spending that people do when they go to work. You know, you're on your way to work, you're stopping to get coffee, you're stopping to get gas if you're motivated enough and get up on time. You know, you're stopping to get lunch in the middle of the day. And on your way home, you're probably stopping at the grocery store because you forgot, you know, to pick up an onion or something that you need for dinner that night. When everything shut down, that 80-20 rule that retailers tend to rely on, that 20% of your higher income spenders are going to yield you 80% of your revenue, all of that got just kind of flipped on its head. So I think that was the real reveal with COVID. The other reveal was our limited access to broadband and how inequitable broadband infrastructure has been. Because now you've got kids who are at school, who are homeschooling, who can't even log in. And that didn't just impact Black and brown folks, it impacted poor white folks. And just to touch on that piece, you know, Black and brown people have been paying the burden and the cost of poverty, both in real time, every day, but also just in the rhetoric. So I think that that's where white people kind of get away with a lot of nonsense, is that the image of poverty has been branded on us, has not been branded on white people. But, you know, COVID revealed all of that, in my opinion.
And on top of that, COVID revealed all of that. And Trump being the president during the time of it revealed all of it as well, to making everyone feel like how Black people have been feeling for centuries. And, you know, everyone was feeling the pain that people who are often on the margins have been feeling for a minute. Everyone felt it. So I think that once it started hitting home and chickens coming home to roost, and people were like, oh, let's care. Yeah.
Yeah, money was the key. Money was being lost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah. And yeah, sorry, that's where I end my thoughts. I want to say more, but I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Angel, you had your hands up?
Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of want to just say, like, whatever the issue may be, it's very important that people get involved in the legislative process. Now, iCitizen lobbied Fonfara one time, and you know what he told me? He told me, oh, that's surprising. I don't get a lot of people from the community in here. You know, because I was dressed a certain way, so he assumed, you know, but I was a guy from the community, even though I was from the Sierra Club. But the point is that he doesn't get a lot of visitors from his district, and that's District 1, Hartford. And I imagine it's probably the same for a lot of districts in Hartford. So I just got to say, whatever issue it may be, whether it may be waste management, environment, healthcare, education, whatever it may be, even though people distrust the government, the only way a lot of these things, not the only way, but a lot of the time, the way you change things is by changing it in law, changing it written. It has to be written somewhere in order for it to be official. That's the way our society works. So people need to testify. They need to talk to their senators and the representatives and let them know what's going on. I'm not saying it's going to magically happen overnight, but I'm telling you, if 10,000 people showed up to the Capitol on lobby day or set up meetings, you know, that makes a difference. That makes them fight for us. And even though we might have a lot of distrust of the government, I got to say, we have to try to work with the system. I mean, things in the system do need to change, but some things we need to also participate in, because we can have a lot of conversations about this, but until it's written and until, like, a lot of all these problems we talk about in society, a lot of it has to do with money, has to do with profits, companies, corporations, profits. You know, people don't want to get sued, you know, so, you know, they might do some things, you know, but it's that fear of the law. I'm going to get sued. I'm not going to make any money. If I don't treat people by the law, if I don't follow these regulations, I'm going to be shut down. Those things change the world. They change companies and their attitudes. All they think about is, how do I make the most amount of money today and for the short term? Most companies think like that. So, you know, whatever we want change, we have to have it written and change somewhere. So in order to do that, we have to use our voice in testimony, written testimony, public testimony, in-person meetings with our legislators, lobbying. When the legislative session comes, these are the times to take your conversations and bring them forth to the legislators. And so that when it finally gets changed, then something is done. That might be controversial, I don't know, but I just, in my heart, feel that if we want to change anything and anything to happen with any conversations, it has to be changed in the law or somewhere, wherever that regulation is, you know?
And I'm going to also say, though, that we need to figure out how to shape the conversation. And that means figuring out how these issues are our issues, and then figuring out how to bring that to the powers that be as we're not trying to tack our issue onto your issue, but these are the issues that we care about, so that as we're figuring out who we're going to vote for, as they are figuring out what their platforms are, they understand that they need to know what the community's actual real issues are and what people's real lived day-to-day issues are. And then the place where it has to come down to the bottom line, there are places where it needs to come down to the bottom line. And that's where I see it as my complete role. One of my very real roles in ways of being is discussing that so much of it has to come down to the bottom line. And so I see one place where my role is for those folks who have to sit at those positions of power, those tables of power, and figure out how to distribute the money and how to convince corporations that the way to support people will support their bottom line, right? That has to happen. And I need those people to know that I'm out here doing the work that I can to get us away from this idea of capitalism and get us away from this idea that in order to care about human beings, it has to be profitable for me. So Angel, as we do this work, I'm so happy that you brought it up this way, because I completely agree with where you are, and that's not my place. And as I'm working towards liberation, like, we've got to meet people where they are. That is true. And I'm trying to create that other world, in no way pretending that the world that exists today can disappear tomorrow, can disappear today, is going to change. So as folks who are in there are doing the work of creating revolution, creating change, there's a necessity for some of us to be out here just kind of questioning the morality of it. You know, laws are very, very important. Legislation is necessary. And today I spent a good amount of time talking about systemic racism and the human beings who perpetuate it. Mm-hmm. And we can have all of the legislation that we want. And if I am just a stone cold jerk, I can figure out how to not enact it in ways that help people. You know, we've got Roe v. Wade, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, how that was bastardized. We've got all of these places where we can see that legislation, when not upheld in the most ethical of manners can be used to hurt folks. You know, we watch how the affirmative action bills are used against Black folks. We watch how so much of the civil rights legislation, the Trump administration figured out how to use against marginalized folks. And we all need to be doing this work from every single space that there is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also I want to add that, you know, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
I wanted to follow up to what Angel was saying about the political process. Is the process that has been largely neglected by the public because it's been really confusing is the regulatory process. PURA, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority. That is actually the most efficient way to get environmental policy and energy equity issues through versus the legislative process, which can tend to be really slow and is always not a sure thing, no matter how good a policy is. The utility companies have largely controlled that process, as well as the legislative process. They've had about a 100 plus year head start on how to do that. They have really embedded themselves into that process because of the nature of how electricity came to be when it became widely available to residential and commercial customers. So by not being in tune to what's happening on the regulatory side, and even the legislative side, there's a lot of inequities just really snuck into our law and how energy policy is framed. So that's a process in which I'm hoping to one day be able to help democratize for organizations like mine and others by creating a fund where we could hire lawyers that would actually represent not just organizations, but individuals who want to take on the utility companies. And that process I've learned a lot about. And thank goodness we were able to hire a policy director. Many of you know Gannon Long, who has been going hard in the regulatory process with monitoring dockets. That job alone is she's doing the work of two people. By kind of serving as our policy director and monitoring dockets through PURA. But that is the most neglected process that needs more attention and intervention. I've also recommended to the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus that they consider adding in some sort of funding for at least 2 liaisons that could monitor those processes for them and provide them with real-time updates. Because I think that once the utility companies see that there are more eyes on this process, things will shift. I mean, things are shifting now because of the chairman, Marissa Gillette. We have we call her the notorious MPG at Operation Fuel because she's really doing it. She's going hard.
Now, what's her deal? Why does she care?
I couldn't tell you. That's a good question for her. I mean, she's the type of person, if you reached out to her and asked her to be a part of this panel, she would do it. Okay. But that's a good question for her. I had the opportunity to meet with her right after she was shortly appointed. And I kind of just spilled my guts to her about energy affordability in the state and what was wrong. All of that was wrong. And she just kind of sat back and was like, what? What is happening? And then she asked me a question and I don't quite remember what it was, but my reply to her was, I feel I'm so honored to do this work, but the people who are in it are just most dishonorable people that I have ever come across. And I think that really resonated with her because she was like, you are honored to do this work, and so am I. And then boom, docket after docket after docket, focusing on energy equity and modernizing the grid. Docket number 171201 is, and there are a number of, I think there's 11 investigations under that docket. Everyone should have a sense of what's happening via Bureau process.
You gotta check this out. Okay, I am seeing, I don't know if other folks are taking notes, but I've got all kinds of places where my ignorance needs to be addressed. So I don't know anything about the Energy Efficiency Board, and I realize that I need to. Anyone who's here, does anyone know when or where or how they meet, or how we can get any minutes from any of their meetings, or learn what they do?
So I was appointed to the board last year.
There we go.
And yeah, we meet once a month. I'm on a residential subcommittee, and we meet. I think it's Alex, you could probably know this better than I do. I think it's the third Wednesday of every month. Because we meet that's the second Wednesday. So we meet next Wednesday. It's the second Wednesday of every month. It's that when I spoke about inequities being snuck into the process, the Energy Efficiency Fund was established about 20 years ago, in which all ratepayers pay a percentage of their utility bills that go into this fund. It's a lot of money, and largely the utility companies were able to help write that law, and it favors them. And it doesn't matter what your income is. Everyone with a household with a utility account pays the same amount of money into this fund, depending on what your usage is. But there's no discount for people who are low and moderate income. But low and moderate income households have not largely benefited from these funds in the way that other commercial, well, not just commercial, but other residential customer bands have benefited. You know, in the way that some of these policies are written, there's energy efficiency now for people who have pool pumps. And I'm just like, okay, people who can afford pools, that's a certain class of customer. That's not, the everyday consumer. So, I see these things, and it just kind of boggles my mind, but I know what it is. I know what it is.
And that's why I talk about being left out of the conversation. Like, there are all of these places where you can step into being an American and step into being a good American. And if you can talk about your Tesla or your EV or whatever, and like, oh, well, we know we just put in energy efficient this and that, and it gives you a step in, right? And over here, like, I'm pissed off that they got rid of the plastic bags, because those plastic bags were wonderful trash can liners for my bathroom trash can. And now I don't have those anymore because you can't do that, but you can buy them at Walmart. So you can buy trash can liners that are still plastic bags, but I can spend money for them. But my poor ass, the wonderful place where I felt like I was recycling, doing great stuff, you took that away from me to help the environment. And I can't even enter this conversation.
Mm-hmm. So is the EID still looking for a board member, Brenda, or did they already fill that? I was nominated for that, but I don't know.
What's the EID? I don't know what the EID is.
The EEB.
Oh, okay, that's what we're just talking about. Okay.
About something else.
No, keep talking.
I think the energy efficiency department, it's through the mayor, is Mayor Luke Bronin. It's part of.
Okay, yeah, that's a different committee.
Okay, because I was like listening to you. I was like, you're a board member. I didn't know that. Okay. So
but the Energy Efficiency Board is looking for
board member.
The nominations closed for community, for ratepayer activists to be on the board.
Yeah, and I was nominated, and I put my hat in the ring. We'll see.
And that's it right there, Alicia and others. It's being on these different boards. That's I know that there are some boards that are not safe spaces for us. And some boards are just kind of like, we're so desperate to have Black and brown faces on our board. Depending on the board, you can seriously make an impact. You can make a difference on some of these boards by volunteering your time. And it's also an opportunity for you to be like, you invited me to the space and it's not safe. What you need to do now is find 5 Black or brown folks, vetted folks, because not all of us are.
Yeah. That's true too.
Let's just be clear. Not all of us, care about these issues. It's important that boards do the work to ensure that they get at least five of us on at the same time.
And that's the important thing, that ever-changing diversity chair is never going to be okay. And then once you've got 3 Black or brown bodies before you, you know what it is. And you get to make this choice, right? And so like, as we look at what sea change is, how honest are we when we hit those boards? How honest are we when we are at that seat at the table? And that's a big piece of the push. And that's something I know has happened in the environmentalist movement. The Black and brown faces that have gotten, wow, Alicia, I'm so sorry. I'm about to go here and I'm not completely calling you out, but the perms are not sitting at the table in the same way. I'm sorry. And, we're bringing our true self to the table and not in all the ways trying to conform our bodies to their bodies to say, oh, look, I'm just like you and I care about the environment just like you. So then when we talk about issues of poor people, we're going to care about it, but we're going to talk about them. There's a whole different place of coming in and saying, yes, I'm so happy to be at this table so that we can talk about the needs of me, not just the needs of the community that I represent, and that's a subtle shift. But that is something that I've been hearing way more when I'm at these tables of power. And, and definitely whenever the brown person is at the table of power, I'm listening very closely to everything that they're saying and how they're saying it. And I'm noticing us talk about us and we and our needs, as opposed to stepping into the conversation. And when we're talking about our communities, talking about them and their needs and our target population. And that I think is the invaluable place of being at the table. And really being at the table as who you are, not being at the table as who they need you to be.
Yeah.
So I'm loving the natural hair you got going on in there that you bring up into the Sierra Club.
My family, my brother was actually shocked that I got hired with my locks because he works in corporate America. He works in, he's up there in the corporate sector. So black young man with his hair cut short. He was like, they hired you with locks? I said, yeah. But my free-forming locks looking like the weekend. Yeah.
He had to go for a walk and process that one.
Yeah.
Nose change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to say, so I've got, some folks know I got a neck tattoo a couple months ago with my oldest son. And it's a yin yang, but that was speaking to a sea change, because when he was a teenager and he wanted to get his tattoos, I was just like, you'll never get a job. You can't do this. Like, you'll be unemployed for life. You're a Black man, you're a musician. And so when it was time, I made him put on a dress shirt. I made him roll it up, roll his sleeves up 3 times. And then we drew a line. And he was allowed to get his first tattoo above that line, because I figured you can have a job, you can have a real job, as long as you can roll up your sleeves 3 times and people don't see the tattoo. He's 31. A lot has changed since then. Mm-hmm. But there's this whole bring true self, bring whole self, and change can happen. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Does anyone have any final thoughts, ideas, anything they need to share, dates they need to throw out, documents the rest of us need to read, anything?
Yes.
Yes.
So Alicia mentioned the End Environmental Racism town hall that we had a few weeks back. It's going to be part 2, and at the end of the month on the 30th, at the state capitol. Alicia, what time is it going on? Noon, 1. We'll get back to you. We'll have to get back to you more. Yeah, it's going to be part 2. It's going to be a march and a rally. And the best part is the organizer, Martha Klein, she reserved the Capitol so that we don't have any like disturbances from folks
Nice.
looking to storm the Capitol. And the main message of the rally is end environmental racism, a climate emergency, working to expand coalition, build community, make a more anti-racist environmental movement. And I'm so glad to work with Alicia and Angel and Brenda and Coalition. And please join us on the 30th. And Kimora, I have your number, and you're going to be hearing from me more often about creative ways that we can expand this movement and make it more reflective of the everyday persons.
Well, everyday persons are caring and are wanting to do stuff, right? So I'm going to say that on the 20th, we've got a Hunter Moon Labyrinth walk. So come, and the Labyrinth is there for different people with different ideas to walk together and come together and discuss what they've got going on, what they're thinking about, what that is. So come join us and do that on 20th. We'll talk. I really want to at least have one of our community conversations before the 30th, a little bit informed by what's going to happen then. So let's continue bringing this conversation together. And this is what we exist for, right? So this morning when the summit was happening and I was watching, so it felt really, really good to be there. And there's always the part of me that's like, okay, I'm seeing some kind of community folks here, but I'm not seeing enough. I'm not seeing enough of us, right? But we're going to continue creating places for this to happen so that we can be a part of those other conversations and bring other people together. So this Saturday is our very last bazaar. We've got some other stuff planned on the land. Like I said, we've got the Labyrinth walk happening on the 20th. So we'll be doing some other stuff, but this is our very last Labyrinth. It is October 9th, which everyone right now should be going, oh my goodness, I know October 9th. That is Kimora Liella Harrington's birthday. I've got that date etched in my brain because of course I do, right? I know all of you know this. Anyways, 1971, I hit the earth. That was 50 years ago this Saturday. So my last, bazaar is from 12 to 4. And we're doing it from 12 to 4 so that we can get out of there so I can go to my beautiful place. So as I talk about everyone thinking, Ann Coverly and Nightfall give us the most beautiful gift ever. And it's my birthday weekend. And when I was a child, we used to get what is now Indigenous Peoples Day, but we used to get Columbus Day off, so that was always close to my birthday. So I used to try to believe that was just for me and everyone got to celebrate that. And now the lie that I ask everyone to step into is Nightfall exists for me, right? Because it's a big, huge puppet show and you can lay back and enjoy it. And it can mean everything you need it to be. And you can fantasize and just be a part of a great big thing. So you're welcome, but come join us at 4 o'clock. Link scooters are going to be there. People who bike, all of you people who do that stuff. We're going to have a bike ride from our space over to Keeney Park. And I encourage everyone, come to my space if you want to. I'd love to see you on my birthday. But most importantly, get to Nightfall. There's nothing. The city of Hartford doesn't give you anything more magical and beautiful and wonderful. And it's just get to Nightfall on Saturday night and imagine all the places that we can be if we come together and get over ourselves and just enjoy all that we got. So peace out, y'all. I love you and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Kimora.